then, yeah, you didn't get me.
Welcome to Game of Nodes, a weekly podcast on the cosmos from independent validator teams.
Okay, so hello and welcome to Game of Nodes, a weekly podcast on the cosmos from independent validator teams. This week, we've got Jorge from Stargaze, who is going to be talking to us about a variety of poorly researched questions that we've thought up in the last week, which has actually been possibly the lowest DPS. Has it been low DPS? I was about to say it's been low DPS this week, but there's probably been drama, hasn't there?
Oh, drama. I was thinking
DJs per second,
like
damage per second.
I had
What have I missed?
I had a bunch of bad D words in there trying to figure out what you're talking about.
Hold on a second. Has he finally lost the plot? No.
Every
Drama per
time
second.
someone brings up
second.
DPS, I'm like, yeah. Well, it's been incredibly low DPS this week. It's just, it's a low market. Everyone's sort of quiet. Lots of people are just back to building, and lots of people have just vanished as well. So, yeah, low drama this week, which is nice.
Yeah, and then, I guess there's still some of the fallout for UST. I guess it's not probably low DPS if you're particularly involved in the Terra ecosystem, right?
Well, that's true. So, from what I can gather now, there's there's the people who have been wrecked, and I guess hopeful that Terra 2 is somewhat of a success so that they can recoup some of their losses. And then there's like the dev pool from Terra, which I guess some have lost, confidence in that ecosystem and are looking to leave, whilst others are sticking around and looking to rebuild on Terra 2. Phoenix 1, I should say now. Is it rebranded to Phoenix, or is it just still Terra with a new network name of Phoenix?
Well, yeah, they had Columbus, didn't they? Was Columbus.Five the last mainnet? And technically, I think I said this when I first saw that. Technically, the Juno relaunch code name was Phoenix. So, we kind of got there first. We got there first with the drama level, and then with the name. But then obviously we relaunched it as Juno 1.
So Terra are the OG copycat. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I think wasn't there a Doke One tweet that was something like, "What's Juno?" Is that just like a copy of?
Yeah,
is that a copy of Terra? It's like,
what's Juno? Yeah,
shoes on the other foot.
I feel like that was more like, "What's Juno?"
Yeah. So we have a couple of follow-ups from last week. So actually, related to that, there's a lot of Terra projects that are coming over into the cosmos. I assume that, Jorge, this has also affected you guys on Stargaze, right? Because are there NFT projects that are looking to migrate over in your direction?
Yeah, we received like a code projects that we're trying to launch on Stargaze as well. And I guess like the main issue is like how do you migrate those? Like, because there are some existing projects that want to migrate and new ones that we're about to launch. So yeah, kind of like dealing with both.
So there was a aggregator, I think, that we.
Oh, we're getting some Australian internet on the go there.
Who was asking about different networks to migrate to? The butchers get me.
All I heard was bush.
So that could have been the most eloquent thing you've ever said, Mel. That was just eaten by the internet. Devastating.
Look, it probably wasn't. Like,
so it seems like Jorge, I'm kind of interested in your perspective on this one. Like what I've seen anyway from just like visually seeing some of the projects like on Twitter that have been talking about the fact they're thinking of moving over into the cosmos and whatnot, is that a lot of these projects relied very heavily on launch pads and whatnot I need to stop saying whatnot. What the hell is wrong with me? A lot of them rely quite heavily on launch pads and tooling in the Terra ecosystem that might not yet exist on on a lot of Cosmos chains, especially like quite a bit of NFT tooling in Terra seem to be like quite custom for specific use cases, whereas a lot of NFT tooling in Cosmos is like at an Null's left, he's just jumped out the window. A lot of the NFT tooling in the Cosmos is like more, I guess, interoperable by default because there's several chains and several teams all building it together, but like it's all at a much earlier stage, isn't it? Like we don't have these like
exactly. Like for example, currently there is also teams that are looking to mint more. We have like a limit on 10K for collection, and some teams want to mint more, like because they have like different process of minting. Some are like generative art, so it's like a single collection, but they will keep minting and minting. So yeah, we are just trying to and working with them in to see how we can like keep customizing the contracts to take these different ways of minting. And right, the launch pad, like all the tooling around like launching a project is quite different, but there is already like 2 or 3 that already made it to launch a collection on testnet. And yeah, I think like probably maybe next week will be one launching. Yeah.
Well, that's exciting. So one of the other things I noticed was that some of the projects are like very heavily into sort of like rendered assets and all that kind of thing. And there's some quite sophisticated processing going on in the background in terms of like what's actually stored on chain and what's not. Do you have like a feeling on like, because I think like people's perception of NFTs is that everything is on chain, right? But especially some of the much more like, things with 3D assets and stuff like that. It's obviously
currently we are following like the OpenSea metadata standards. So all the metadata is stored on IPFS, including the assets. So on chain, it's like a pointer to the IPFS cache, and that's how you retrieve it. And this is like some other difference with Terra as well, because some of them have like on-chain metadata, but we also will try to come up with like on-chain metadata in the future as well.
Cool. Okay, so it's not like fundamentally incompatible with the way that you guys are already thinking about stuff.
Yeah, I guess like the main issue is only if it was like an existing project that they have the metadata on chain, and if they want to come over to Stargaze, then what do? You will have to move the metadata to IPFS in order to work, at least for now, until we go with on-chain metadata. But for newer projects, they can switch to IPFS to do it.
I realized we had a couple of things we were going to, because we do like follow-ups at the top of the show, but now we started talking about Stargaze now, so whatever, let's go with it. So like, is on-chain metadata something you're kind of actively I guess looking at supporting? I mean, it's an interesting thing from my perspective personally, because obviously the name service that we built on RHINO is on-chain metadata, because there's that guarantee that everything is stored on the chain.
Yeah, we definitely will have like different ways to do it. And I think like on-chain metadata also like gives different ways to interact with the marketplace. For example, bidding on a specific trade, right? Because it's on chain, you can do, okay, I just want to bid for this specific trade, and it will apply to any NFT that matches that trade. That's the type of thing that you could do with on-chain metadata, and it's something that we are looking to support as well in the future.
Yeah,
so basically,
Shane's talked.
It's like a text-based metadata. Like when you start trying to store, or vector, but using like graphics and sound, and it's just not feasible to really store that on chain, is it?
Yeah, currently there is a Commonwealth proposal. I don't know if you guys have seen like the Hyperion project.
Yes, that was very cool. I missed out on it when it was first minted, though.
So he's working on some custom contracts to launch a generative art site, where it will take like the creator, like the minter address and the hash of the transaction in order to create like these different shapes and forms of. So yeah, this requires like you mint, then it will go to the site. It will generate like the art based on the transaction, and then it will submit another transaction to finalize the mint with your final asset.
I think that must be similar to I think there was an Ethereum project that
there's Artbox, I think Artbox, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think they had like there was an NFT that's a representation of specific blocks in time.
Yeah, and I think like the cool thing about that is like first it will be like the first third party developer that is adding a new custom contract to Stargaze, because for those that don't know, like the governance gated contracts setup we have for Stargaze, but it's not like it's only the team that upload contracts, but it's more like in order to upload contracts, it has to do with what Stargaze is doing, right? In this case, it's NFTs.
So what would be the process for that, Jorge? Will that be like audited by the Stargaze team before they put it up so that you can give it your tick? Because
exactly. Yeah, the idea will be to fund like audits in order to make sure like nothing like tricky is on the contract, and this setup allows like for the community to check the code, because I've seen contracts that are deployed that you could not find the source code. So at the end, you only trust the team, but without seeing the code, it's like you don't know if something could happen at the end.
So you guys will like see the code, compile it, check the hash against the code, the contract that goes up for the proposal.
Yeah, so exactly. Like you can check like it's the code that it's open source. You compile it locally and check with the hash that is on the governance proposal. Okay, this is the code that is being uploaded.
Yeah, I think the users and the public probably need to understand that the differences between like when we talk about RHINO getting hacked and then compare that to like Stargaze or OmniFlix or any other platform that uses permissioned contracts. Like you guys can sort of be a gateway to check their contracts before they go up, because you don't necessarily need to patch every single wasm vulnerability that comes up, because you can make sure that they're not doing that before they, and you can talk about that during the governance period.
Exactly. For example, the last two security patches from custom wasm, I think like it didn't affect us. Like we assessed like the security implications of the patches, but it doesn't affect it because only if the Stargaze team uses the vulnerability in contracts, then you will trigger the vulnerability. Otherwise, it's but we are not going to do that. So
exactly, you're not going to pwn yourself. But there is like there is a bit of an issue in the Cosmos where there's like this vote yes culture. So it's it still is possible that someone could put up a nefarious contract and be voted in.
I guess like this is where like the validator community comes. Like you need to trust your validators, like and probably validators have like other networks and but we as developers, like we at least I am keeping track of all of our dependencies and check for security vulnerabilities or give like more information if we really need to do like a quick upgrade.
It's a lot of depths to keep a track of for vulnerabilities.
Yeah, I guess like at least for the chain side, the most important ones are like Go, because this is what you use to build the binary. The SK, IBC Go, and custom wasm. Those are the most important like upstream dependencies that I keep track of.
Yep.
And I'm guessing you have Do you have plans to integrate ICA, Interchain Accounts, at some point?
Yeah, I already have a PR open. We just want to add a little feature in the next upgrade. Also, like some enhancements to governance for custom wasm. Like the main issue right now for us with custom wasm in governance is like it takes a lot of gas for buying.
I've noticed that.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's on our next upgrade. Probably just as a host for now, not as a controller, but just as a host, which will allow other chains to send message through IBC.
Yeah, we've started the implementation on Juno side, but as soon as you do the controller part, you need the authentication module. And there's InterTX at the moment, and so technically speaking, if you read the documentation, InterTX does do a minimal like implementation of everything you need for the host authentication module. But it just has all those warnings where it's like, don't use this. Seriously, don't use this. I can't believe you're using this. All right, if you use this, your chain's dead. You're dead. I'm going to hunt you down. And you're like,
it will take some time for a chain to be like a controller, like because it has some security risk implications, and it will just take time to include it.
I think I mean I can't be sure. The annoying thing is the person I'm working on this with is Jabby, who's actually not here. But we've been talking about it quite a lot, and I think we're probably going to back out of the InterTX and controller part because
we are just upgrading to IBC3 and ship with the host enabled for now, and then figure out like the controller later, because we really want to do things like being able to swap the stars, like on osmosis, for example, through like a stars account.
Yeah, because also, well, I guess from us, it's sort of like it's a bit of a weird one because I think like Juno is like a it's almost like a landing zone, I think, in a lot of ways, like for particular projects and things, and then they kind of go off onto their own chain. The idea, I mean, long term, right? Any protocol that's successful in Juno is eventually going to branch out into an L1 of their own, right? Is probably the reality. So Juno kind of makes sense as a controller chain, but although we will implement the host ICA functionality, I mean, maybe I'm just not being imaginative enough, but I'm kind of like, why would I be on osmosis and be executing WASM instructions on Juno?
So
I guess like it makes more sense the other way around. Like at least for us, like the examples I have right now, it's like swap stars and then send it back to.
I mean, for the name service stuff, it is probably the only use case I can think of where it makes sense to be the host chain, because you just go, I have this BEC32 address. Does that correspond to any known validator, whatever that's registered with the name service? Then sure, it looks it up and it just gives you an interchain query. But again, that API isn't really there yet. So it's like, okay, well, what other services are actually like gasping to use this functionality, the host functionality? Probably not many, but you can see how smart contracts and UIs and things like that, where somebody's already interacting with a DApp on Juno that does something, whatever, you can kind of see like how that might go, okay, I want to talk to Osmosis or I want to talk to Stargaze. I mean, actually, literally with projects that we're working on right now, it's plausible that people who are on that in a kind of more of a social space might want to do something on Stargaze from where they are. And you're like, okay, sure, that's an ICA controller. Awesome.
Well,
but we just need to it's actually really hard to implement all of that at the moment because the authentication thing is just like, is left as an exercise to the reader. And you're like, I'm not sure I'm smart enough to actually implement that.
Yeah, it's like when you start like to programming and then you have your your examples like Hello World, and then build this big product. Like, then how do I do that? Right?
So here's a potential use the Frey. Say, for example, someone on another chain, another permissionless smart contract chain or what have you, builds like a DEX that is, like one of those DEXs that hops between pools to get the best exchange rate. So that is a potential use to use ICA across chain to execute a wasm contract on Juno swap whilst hopping back through on osmosis, for example, if it was able to do contracts like that. I'm not sure if it can, but things like that where you might want to interact with across.
So Jorge can correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is you can interact with any message type that is registered to the
on the host.
Yeah, on the host.
For example, we have
basically,
to enable
when you do an upgrade, don't you? And in the upgrade handler, you say all the things you can interact with. So you can look at our working draft for this, and we basically say, I guess all the major WASM message types, we say, you can interact with that. I don't know what you guys are doing, Jorge, but I imagine similar.
Yeah, I guess I guess just specific messages, like the most common probably just transfer or IBC transfer, or in this case, execute custom WASM.
Yeah, I think we maybe have a couple of other cosm WASM ones, which there's an outstanding question for me saying something like, I included them all just in case we want them, but we probably don't want them.
Because you don't know like the implications of enabling something that you, for example, what if you enable a store code through Interchain Accounts? Will that mean like someone will submit code through IBC, and what will happen to your setup? So those are the type of things that you have to carefully evaluate before enabling. So.
Yeah, I mean, nobody's tried that. That's, what happens when that returns is almost anybody's guess, right?
Yeah.
Probably it will be fine, but potentially it will not be fine. So yeah. I've really derailed us very, very quickly into talking about Stargaze. So
I was just looking at the spreadsheet, and I'm like, we have not followed this at all.
Sorry about that. It's just just excited to have Jorge on the podcast. It's been a while since we've talked, so I was just like, really excited.
I was just looking back at the. It's weird that it took this kind of Terra collapse for me to understand how big that universe is. I was looking at some of you said about the number of Terra NFT projects, and I found a webpage with 250 that are active and another 200 that are being planned and for release. I don't know how I missed this, but wow, there's a significant number of projects out there, isn't there?
So Jorge, I just want to bring something up while we're talking about NFTs and Terra and Stargaze and Omniflix and etc. All the Cosmos NFT platforms and projects, right? So we touched on this a little bit when Shane and Sisler were on here the other day, because it's just like a burning question I have that I'd like to keep bringing up. Interop on NFTs. So I brought up the concept that a aggregator which can actually bring together all the projects and all the platforms into one UI UX and be able to trade and transfer across, which we raise the issues of like the interoperability of NFTs is not probably there yet because of the different standards that everyone uses. Like some people use modules, other people use smart contracts, not necessarily
we're trying to follow the ICS specification. So either it is like the native module, or contracts, it should work. The only thing it's unclear at the moment is royalties, because the ICS specification doesn't say how to handle those, and it leaves up to the implementation to handle royalties. So that will be the main issue. For example, I don't want to pay royalties for selling my NFT. Then I will move to a different chain to sell it with a royalty. So how do you handle that? It's like governance gate set of chains where you can send your NFTs in order to honor these royalties. But yeah, I think that will be the main issue. But in terms of interoperability, we have Mike working on only on writing the contracts for ICS. So he did the Ethereum part for Gravity Bridge, and he's working on the custom wasm side to do the ICS specification.
So are you guys talking with other chains like Omniflix and that when you're working out that certification? Or?
Yeah, the ICS specification where it was at work from many people, and I think it was merged recently, the final version. I don't know if at least we are working on the custom wasm implementation. I don't know if there is teams working on the Go module side for the implementation.
So since that conversation the other day, Frey and Usurper, I have seen one such project rear its head, who I think are talking with Stargaze at the moment as a NFT aggregator. Would that be right, Jorge?
Sure.
I think I've seen a project raise its head as an aggregator in the recent weeks. Have you heard anything about that?
No.
No? Okay.
I haven't.
Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I'm too alpha. I don't know. too alpha for the chains itself.
You're so far ahead of it.
Was that a native Cosmos project, or was that one of these many Terra projects that has talked about coming over to the Cosmos and huffing and puffing and blowing our house down?
Probably the latter.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know why I equate it to the Big Bad Wolf. Actually, they're very welcome in our very large and welcoming tent. There's a lot of space to piss out of this tent, so that's okay. I mixed so many metaphors there. I just sort of committed to something very wrong. It was
that's a good thing,
Terra
right?
folks, you're welcome to come into our large, comfortable tent and join us in pissing out of the tent.
Put it this way: our blocks are not yet full, and we need to
space of those blocks.
We need to fill those blocks for the end of the 12-year mark.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, very true. We were talking about this earlier today, weren't we? That I was having a bit of a I've been programming for several hours, my brain is toast moment. I was like, hang on a minute, guys, what happens when there's no minting? And I was like, fees. I'm like, but wait, everybody's gonna unstake, and you're like, yeah, fees. And I was like, but the fees won't be enough. And then I was like, the fees might actually not be enough.
Yeah,
it's just funny that you just come to that realization. You've been so involved with Juno since the get-go, and you're like, hang on,
hold on a second,
wait a minute, the inflation runs out after 12 years.
Look, I haven't had any sleep since Prop 16 started. This week has been the first time I've been able to do something that wasn't something on fire needs putting out. I've been able to do normal person work.
But you've managed to come across a in 12 years time fire.
I'm freaked out. You should be freaked out too.
Upgrade, change the module, keep inflating.
That's right. New Genesis bucket. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, new Genesis, block height 1.
Exactly. Bucket. Start over.
Phoenix.
Phoenix.
Jorge, what's the Stargaze strategy there? Because you guys don't have a limit, do you? It's just mint forever?
Yeah. No, it's 4 billion. It will reduce in 6 months by a third.
So the Stargaze model is different in that there is NFT royalties distributed, right?
Yeah. So, for example, every time you trade, mint, or create a collection, it has like 2% fee, which is 1% is born, and the other it will go to stakers. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think, well, I mean, that must be similar on OmniFlix, because my validator account just keeps having all these random coins show up in there when people trade, and, mint and stuff is just like Atom and Wawa and God knows what else. Because they don't even have their own. They don't have their own coin yet, really. There's all this other dust just keeps showing up. I'm like, what is this shit?
God knows what else.
So that's going to be a nightmare when it comes to do tax on that for some of you fellas, and you're like, just all these things showed up. Because I don't think you even have to actually claim it; it just shows up. So
yeah, it will be part of like the distribution. Since we at the moment we just take stars for fees and trading, everything is just in stars.
I think I've started accepting Atom as a fee for transactions. Have any of you guys started doing that?
I didn't, but they've started fucking showing up nevertheless, which I'm
definitely
not fully sure I can explain, given that they're not configured for our validator.
So Atom's showing up in your validator?
Yep.
Didn't configure it. Reread that module.
Either somebody is trolling us by sending us Atom. No, because it's definitely rewards. It's definitely because I checked I checked our monitoring the other day, and I was like, this is like a third of an Atom or something. I was like,
yeah. Osmosis has this cool thing where you configure your gas prices in Osmo, I think. And there's like different, it can accept in different denominations, but since they have access to the spot prices, it will be converted to the equivalent in Osmo in order to charge the same fee.
Yeah, that's cool. So yeah, wow, geez, but that means like the validator would need to dynamically change their.
No, they specify like the Osmo gas prices. And then if you pay in different denomination, it will be like computed in order to see.
So it like swaps it to Osmo, does it?
It does like so for example, you be like, I want to charge 1 micro Osmo, for example. Then if you are paying different denomination, it will check if it meets the minimum requirement by doing this spot price conversion.
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I don't suppose that you can shed any light on the distribution of alternate denominations as fees. Do you know anything about that? Because we're all, I've just realized that we're all baffled by it.
Yep.
Well, on Juno, isn't it that if you set that you also accept the IBC denom that is Atom that comes over IBC with the big old hash, then technically you're accepting Atom. As long as our magic IBC world doesn't break. And you could do the same for stars, you could do the same for whatever. The difference with Osmo is that they, I guess, like kind of know the prices. Like
the thing is like, how do you dynamically change the value, because prices will be different. So, for example, if Atom goes up or down, it will be different with your local chain denomination. So on osmosis, what they're trying to do is to charge the same, even if there is different prices on the other denominations.
So I mean, you can't complex. Do anything about that in Juno at the moment. It's just set and forget and change it when there's a big change and difference, I guess. But so we've put it in the Juno docs to set it at a certain amount, which is sort of, one's definitely cheaper. We probably better look at that ratio, but you don't want to have like point. Blah, 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 blah. But anyway, what I was sort of getting to is that Frey has Atom IBC Atom showing up on his validator, as you just said, but you don't accept the denom as a fee. So
it's because someone is accepting it.
So is that distributed?
At the end, it's not the validator that gets the rewards, but it goes to the fee distribution module, and then it's split for everyone.
So would that not mean that he would need to be delegated to a validator that's accepting that denom?
No, it's like for everyone. Like, for example, that's why someone having 0 gas prices affect everyone, because then everyone doesn't get the fees for that.
Wait, hang on. Whoa, hang
Yeah,
on.
that's
I'm
not.
about to say. Okay, I'm about to say something that has just freaked me out. I'm really hoping that Jorge is going to tell me that's not how it works. That stuff is checked for. Don't worry, there are regression tests for that. What's to stop me? Essentially, what's to stop me putting a garbage denom in the accepted denoms from one validator that is a part of consensus, so that every time that validator proposes, it's going to propose garbage?
It can only include transactions when they are proposing. Other validators will skip it.
But so that would potentially mean that 1/100th of all transactions would just go totally askew, right?
In this case, like if they're accepting like fees with different denominations.
Right, because the fees still need to be signed off, don't they, by the signer? Yeah. So it still has to exist. So when the user pays the fee, it still has to exist. So even if you put some total garbage in
it doesn't matter.
Config,
like
it doesn't work.
That needs to exist. Yeah.
However,
thank fuck. I thought for a second there, I was just like, holy shit, you could just get like a third of the network to just change the fucking denom.
No, it has to exist on chain.
Which actually,
on the supply, yeah.
So hang on. Are you saying that if say SG1 has SG1 coin and they're like, the number one validator, they sign fucking way more blocks than anyone else, that if they change to SG1 coin as the denomination and delete Juno, they can just sell their SG1 coin and then just 1/3 of the transactions on the network can go with their coin as the gap.
Yeah.
Fuck that.
Delete this podcast.
Fuck that. Delete this.
Holy shit. So
shut this shit down.
It is a network attack. It is a network attack from under the hood.
It is. A validator can do that if they have
it's the same as setting 0 gas prices. Like, I know it can include transactions with CLV. And
Game of Nodes coin coming soon.
Oh my god, this is a really big bug, you guys.
That's why
GON, here it comes. Everything's going to denom.
T-Rate has like a minimum gas prices built into their chain. So you can add it because it's not part of the consensus, like it's on the anti-handler. So it doesn't make it to the mempool, but if you make it part of the consensus, like a minimum gas price requirement, then if everyone doesn't follow that, then you will get this double. You will sign different block.
So until you either make it a part of consensus that there has to be an accepted amount of the accepted denom, or you change the anti-handler to validate the denom, then technically you can attack a network as a validator.
You can spam it. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
But with potentially you could cause. I feel like with 10% of voting power, you could cause way more chaos than.
Or say a small group of independent Cosmos validators, that type of idea.
I guess it doesn't make sense in the case of fees, because then you are just putting more pressure to your nodes, because other validators won't be accepting that fee. So they will have to sit in your mempool in order to be included in that block. So basically you are just attacking yourself as a validator by doing that.
But also,
of course, only you propose often.
Well, sure, but this could be a competitive advantage. Like, what if you just went, okay, well, let's say you're onboarding a bunch of new Terra users, you've got wrapped USDC coming over from Axelar. You just say, okay, well, my validator accepts fucking wrapped USDC. who else does, boom, you're going to collect those fees. That's a competitive advantage for your validator. Where
everyone will collect them. Like I previously
of
mentioned,
course, because they'll go to the transaction
all the
module, won't they?
all the fees go to the
Okay, I'm not an evil genius. Don't worry about it.
No, but at the same time, you can like push your shitcoin as a fee mechanism instead of the native coin. So you can sell your shitcoin as fee gas. But in terms of like attacking the network, I guess does the wasm module, because you can set the gas for upload contracts, right? And instantiating contracts, like can that be used with a shitcoin, or is that like the native coin only?
Okay, yeah, that's
because that's the attack vector.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, especially
that's
for
actually that's actually a really good point.
Yeah,
if a validator, if you start accepting Huahua or Kerberos, then you can just spam the network with contracts.
Yeah, exactly. It will affect like the validators that have like lower hardware as their setup. Like, I guess in order to attack or to spam, you can have like a big machine if you are proposing like often, and then just start uploading codes, because it won't cost you, in this case, but you will paying just with these fake denominations, and it will affect the nodes that can handle that big chunks of transactions.
I've just thought of a second. I've actually just thought of an actual viable attack using this, and I'm not going to say it because I know it can take down a network. I think I've got it.
Well, I think we already should delete this podcast.
I just want a small recap. We're 48 minutes in. Number one, we haven't touched a single item on our agenda, and number two, we've defined how to take down every Cosmos chain. Is that kind of the tail of the take?
Every wasm chain.
Every wasm chain. Excuse me. Yeah, every wasm chain.
Not
too bad.
Every
48 minutes.
Permissionless wasm chain. So in other words, RHINO.
Especially permissionless.
Yeah, we don't allow. Well, we don't allow like uploading code, so you will be rejected.
Only the Frey is sweating in this 4-blocker video here.
But it's okay.
Jorge's cool as a cucumber down there. He's like,
right now.
Yeah.
Okay, fellas, I know how to take down RHINO again with a pretty easy exploit. If anybody wants to buy this exploit, my RHINO address is.
Let me read it out. It'll be in the show notes tonight. Yeah, exactly. Address will be in the show notes.
So send me 3 million USDC, not USDT. Nice try. To my address.
Fun story. I haven't actually been able to send any USDC anywhere.
Okay.
I can't send it on osmosis to anyone. Every time I try it just fails. But that's probably the name for this episode is Game of Nodes 12. Delete this episode.
Yeah, probably. So, Jorge, we do actually have episode notes, the things we want to cover, and I noticed that Usurper has put some technical questions that we've been asked and some stuff that he wants to talk about. So I feel like, Usurper, do you want to raise some of your questions and your thoughts about the recent Stargaze marketplace? Because I think that's where some of the infrastructure questions come, and we've also got some questions about the roadmap as well. And some of our watchers have also asked some questions about things like NFT interop and stuff. So we'll cover off some of those as well, just in case they're in the chat going, "Why haven't you asked our questions?" Which they might be.
Well, I think the history was we were talking about this a little bit last week, I believe, when we were talking about the launch of the marketplace and just the growth of RPC calls, and there were some questions around the caching layer and those types of things. And then because you and I talked about it really briefly within Discord, and then Jake came on and said, kind of talking through it. So that's the reason we thought of this conversation here. So maybe Jorge, give us a little bit of a overview of the Stargaze tech stack, maybe from top to bottom a little bit, and then we can maybe dump into some of those items.
I can talk more about like the infra stuff. Front end, I've been involved a little, but
sure.
So we have like the RPC nodes like in different geographic locations. Currently, we are using Clover to geo distribute like the load. So it will hit the closest data center or closest node to your location, like you as a user, to reduce like the latency to do queries or send transactions. I think like in the last 7 days, we have received like 800 million requests now for REST and RPC endpoints. And the other layer on top of that RPC, I introduced like right before the marketplace, is like a caching layer. And we have like many complaints. We don't have like an indexer yet. We are working on that. But then we rely on the public nodes, RPC and REST endpoints. But it was taking too long to load your profile. And that's because for each collection, there's like a different instance of a contract. So you have to query if each contract to get which NFTs a user owns on this contract and so on for every collection, right? So that's why it took like so long to do it. So I made this API to do it like on the back end instead. So when you first request your profile, because it's in Go, so it will like just throw Go routines at the same time to query all the contracts at the same time and get all the NFTs you own, and then retrieve metadata, retrieve like if they have like a price associated to the NFT. And it was really nice because like your profile loads now, I guess under a second.
Yeah,
and
it's really fast.
Now.
Yeah.
But that increases the amount of queries to your own RPCs and REST endpoints. But it's impressive, like how the contracts, because we are querying the contracts and they are taking like really huge amount of calls. And I think like since we are using the permission custom wasm approach, contracts are pinned by default, so they are kept in memory on every node. So when you try to execute a query or a transaction to a contract, it's already in memory, the contract, right? So it will take less time to do the execution. And they are responding very fast now. I think that the pinning contracts helps with gas costs and querying time. So
yeah, I think some of the stats we have is.
Well.
Go ahead. Sorry, Frey.
I was just saying it's interesting they're pinned by default. I hadn't realized that was. So are they pinned when you instantiate governance contracts? Are they pinned by default, or is that something you've specifically done as like a follow-up?
No. As if you upload codes through governance, they are pinned by default. So you don't have to submit like an additional governance process to pin contracts. At the end, since each instance it just uses the same code ID. It's faster, like having the contracts pinned. And I think like that's why we suggested Valeros to increase the memory allocated to pin contracts, because they're cache and it will be faster to execute transactions.
So where's that caching layer?
That caching layer we are using provider, which is kind of like Heroku. I know I never used Heroku, but it's called Flight.io, I think. So the cool thing about this is like you define your container, your Docker container, for example, and then you just choose, I want to deploy this to these regions and have these other regions as backups in case like they can deploy to a region, they will deploy to a different region. And they have like any cast network. So they give you like the URL, and it's basically the same as Cloudflare, where it will hit the closest data center. So we are using both right now, Cloudflare and this other service to serve the APIs.
And then if that service needs data, it just calls the standard Cloudflare RPC APIs depending on region. So and then Cloudflare takes over to figure out what the closest region is, and then routes it to the node, right?
Everything like ties together. Like we are using the advantage of our Cloudflare setup and this other service to get the closest nodes as well.
Well, the volume is pretty much staying where it was. I mean, after the marketplace launched, it was 1,000 to 2,000 requests a second on the back end. And it's, I mean, right now, even as we're talking, it's 850. So it just kind of continues. It's pretty stable. And Europe is definitely higher than I think the rest of the US, although around this time it's about even, because it looks like a lot of folks are
I think
on the marketplace.
The other thing is like, since we are running like the public infrastructure, like everyone uses the endpoints. So for example, if you have used Hubble, I think they use our endpoints and other tooling as well. So it's hard at the end to maintain the public infra, because if everyone is relying on that, if you go down, like it will affect other parts.
So that's like an idea of the throughput. A question that we've had a couple of times actually on Twitter was, do you have any idea on the volume, as in volume of sales? Because I mean, a lot of those hits will be people browsing, but some of them will be selling. I've certainly noticed just from a cursory look at like what the floor is on a given day and how it's moving and stuff, that it feels like there's a lot of NFTs trading hands at the moment. Do you guys have any idea of like what those numbers are?
We just have, since we are still working on our indexer, we don't have like the detailed data, but we are working on it. But let me see, I can think, since we started. I think like 20 million stars in buys maybe in the last week.
Wow.
20 million stars in buys, is that what you said?
Yeah. And that's like 1% is born. So yeah.
So there's a lot of stars going up in smoke right now.
And Stargaze, I know Juno has a 12-year inflation. Is that the right term? What's the right term?
Minting schedule?
Minting schedule? Yeah. I mean, schedule, right? Not schedule.
Minting
12,
cliff.
Minting cliff. Stargaze is 5 years. Is that right?
No, we have like this thirdening. So each year is reduced by a third. So
yes.
In theory, like, it will take, I don't know, it was like 5 or 7 or something like that. I don't recall.
But it falls off pretty quick, right?
It will never reach like the 4 billion, but it will just keep reducing and reducing. Right. But the target, you could say like it's 4 billion. Yeah. But since we have like the trading volume, then like all the stakers will still receive like rewards for staking.
Yeah. Right. So what's like the next steps on the roadmap? I know you mentioned the indexer, but presumably there's some other things coming up too.
In terms of the backend like infrastructure, the indexer, it's taking a little bit of time because we have different products or features that we want to launch. So we want to make it part of like, usually you pull like the blockchain data and then parse the messages. So we're trying to split this into just the indexer that pulls all the data and then puts all the information into a stream, like a Kafka stream, for example, so that we want to support like replaying all the history in case you need like a new feature, but hey, I missed data from like, I don't know, a week before. So we want to be able to replay all the history without hitting nodes again, because full nodes are really slow when you try to query. So we are trying to offload, like just index everything like blocks and transactions into S3 buckets. And then when you want to replay, you only will fetch from S3 storage and not relying on full nodes.
So is that going to be like Parquet or something like that?
Sorry?
Is that going to be like Parquet or something like that? Or is it going to be like literally streams?
Yeah, streams. So the idea is like integrate different services that just, you want a new service, just attach to the stream and start receiving like transactions or whatever data you want.
Right. So just kind of like a source sync type situation.
And in terms of the marketplace, the contract already has like different features, like bids, like the auction style, and we have like bidding on collections, which is not part of the front end yet because we are waiting to the final audit report to come back. We need to do some adjustments. So the safest is just like the buy now, which is just doesn't rely on the contract to hold any funds, because you just buy and then you will send the funds to the seller, royalties, and but yeah, I think that those will be the upcoming features. I guess the one I like is like the bidding on collections, because you can bid. For example, you want a bad kid, you don't care which one, you just bid. I want to pay 100 stars for a bad kid, and anyone with a bad kid can take the bid and accept the offer.
Right.
That's
so
cool.
It's like a reverse version of the eBay thing where you can say, I will sell this for this price, but it's kind of coming from the buyer end.
Yeah, like a two-way to direction. Yeah.
So a nerdy question on incentive mechanisms. What's the auction model you're using for the auction contracts?
Right now, it's just like just bids, and the seller will have to accept the offer they want, right? So there is
it's not like a Victory or anything.
Yeah, there is no like we are planning on adding more different mechanics to auction style, like a reverse Dutch auction style to discover better pricing for NFTs. So
I was kind of curious because I think I saw either you or Shane tweeting the Tim Roughgarden blockchain series recently, and obviously Tim Roughgarden did a series on economic incentives and game theory and whatnot. And as a very lapsed economics person from way back in the day, I rewatched it some time ago in lockdown, and I was just like, I wonder if that's because they've been designing their auction mechanics. So I was kind of curious.
Yeah. So I think like there is more features. I can't really say more, but yeah, there will be more cool features. We have like a huge roadmap now, and we're just trying to prioritize the most requested ones, because everyone wants like different things, like they want like sale history, volume, and everything inside the marketplace. And when you go to like, for example, Osmosis, if you want to know like information about like a pool, you go to info.osmosis. It's not like built in the main Osmosis site. But yeah, we are trying to we know like this is like very important for trading NFTs and trying to build it for the marketplace. So.
Cool.
When can I accept a kid as gas?
Accept a bad kid as gas.
Yeah.
So I think we said last week the funniest thing that I heard in Prague was that bad kids are the blue chip NFT. What do you think about that?
Somebody say that. Yeah. They're cool.
Yeah, I know. We will have to see volume, but I guess like there is like huge sales right now for bad kids, and also for Stargaze points. I think like probably those two. I'm not really sure yet.
What was the second one? Stargaze what?
Punks. Yeah.
Stargaze punks.
Yeah.
I should have bought more bad kids.
I sold one, which was shocking. I just put one out there just to mess with the marketplace, and then it went. I was like, shit.
Damn it.
Clearly.
Some are just watching like the Cobol stream for new listings and sales.
Yeah, that to add to your list. I'm sure it's on your list, but the idea of like I sold it. I want to see if it's for sale. I want to see if who else sold it. I want to see how much money I lost.
Yeah. That's
right?
part of
like, clearly I made the wrong decision selling it. So how wrong was my decision? That's always good to know.
Out of curiosity, what's your favorite collection that's been on Stargaze, Jorge? I think I know what Shane's is. I'm pretty sure Shane's is Glitch Candy or Hyperion.
I don't know. Like there's multiple ones that I like. Yeah, probably Hyperion is because all the coding side that I'm impressed with that. Same for glitch candies, and of course like bad kids. Like my avatar right now is like a bad kid.
I'm disappointed that my glitch candies are worth less than the random bad kid that I want. Like one bad kid, I think it's worth more than two of the glitch candies. And I'm like,
didn't you just go glitch candy mad?
Yeah, a little bit. So I don't have any. We Needlecast have 6. We've been at Genesis Validate. We've been involved in the Stargaze testnets from literally when the Discord opened.
Yep.
Like it was our first chain as well. Like so, it was like, oh, we're going to support the network, but then we got 2 and then we got greedy.
The whole experience of the testnets are really nice. Like we as the Stargaze also made mistakes on testnets, but that came out with good things. Like for example, a better integration testing. Like I remember like in one testnet, like we broke IBC because wiring issues and the big app.go, like which is a mess to maintain. So every time there is an upgrade, we test like the previous version can connect to Osmosis or Cosmos Hub in the integration test. And then we simulate the upgrade and the integration test. And then we keep testing that the IBC connection is not broken because it's the most critical thing, like able to transfer through IBC. And that's what I got from testnets and a lot more things, but I think that more significant one.
Well, we were also saying when there was the $32 million sent to the wrong address fun times that it was on a Stargaze testnet. You guys punked the testnet, didn't you? By it was you, wasn't it, who put the upgrade handler that said if you actually read this handler, get in touch with Jorge.
Yeah,
that was brilliant. I wish more people did that.
We had this like challenge, like because we try to put everything to be transparent as possible in terms of code. And an important sign is barriers to be able to, even if you don't understand like coding, like, but at least just through reading, if there is nothing like very suspicious. And in this case was like a common, like he was sending funds to somewhere else. And if you read this, then you will get extra points in the testnet just by reading what's going into the next.
That's awesome.
Right? So.
Genius.
Have you done any of that on mainnet?
No.
It'd be funny if there's just random stuff in the mainnet, just hashes.
Meow will send you a bad kid if you see this message.
That's right.
Yeah. I'm definitely going to start reading all the diffs on Stargaze.
Meow is definitely the bad kid whale as well. That's the thing. Like as soon as he's had a beer, it's just like bad kids for all. You never get them.
Wasn't there a limit on the minting, or is he just going through marketplaces buying them all?
Funny though, it was the limit was 50.
50 was it?
Yeah.
Bloody hell.
And it took a week to sold out, like because it was a huge collection, 10K. It was 10K. But it took a whole week to mint, and I think it was 50 the limit.
The floor price is 2,400 at the moment. That's like
2,400.
Yeah, how much were they to begin with?
Jeez,
like 2,400 stars.
I think it was 222, something like that.
Yeah, it was like around about the 200 mark.
Yeah, actually, I could probably look up in the ledger. But
although to be fair, I guess that's probably means they're about the same.
About par. Yeah.
Oh, that hurts.
A bit more. I don't know. Look again. Look. We don't talk about how much was spent on glitch candies. That's not. I like at the peak of the stress on Prop 16. I think was when the 114 shut collection got 114 shut collection got launched, and I think I just straight up ate 25 of those. And the floor of those is, I think, about 75 stars. So, like, whatever.
Oh, 114 shut. Yes.
These
are sold out before. Yeah, these are very cool. And actually, the prices now are extremely low. So,
yeah, I've got, to be fair, I've got pretty much the coolest one I've actually seen anywhere. I've got, like, I don't remember what number it is. It's like 924 or something. And it's like this really, really ripped one. It's very, very cool. But yeah, the other 24 are less exciting.
I do like I didn't really realize the 25 nights is, we were talking about in channel as well, but the structure is, if you can get all the shards of one image and then you get something out of it, that's a really cool piece too. That's pretty neat.
Floor price on a glitch candy is 1,800 stars, Frey.
Maybe I should. I've got a diptych. I actually got a double diptych.
You got a what?
So a diptych, where it's two that should go together. They're obviously part of the same generative like cycle. So I've got two sets of two that visibly kind of go together.
I thought it was another DPS joke.
No, I wouldn't do that to you. But yeah, maybe I could be persuaded to part with a couple of those. And as I've said elsewhere on the show, the most exciting glitch candy that we have is actually printed off as a 0.5 meter by 0.5 meter on art paper glisse print. The expensive, like the studio, the gallery quality print is framed and in the office.
Did the print cost you more than the NFT?
No. That is a very easy question.
Did you guys see that?
There are three universities and 2 art schools, not too far. Well, actually, to be fair, not a million miles away from where I live. So I just found a print shop that was near to one of the campuses and was like, "Do you do, gallery quality prints?" And they were like, "Yes, we do, because 1,800 art students want their stuff gallery printed a year from us." And I was like, "Ooh, I bet at this time of year nobody's giving you jack shit." And they're just like, "Yeah, tenner."
Tenner.
I was like, 0.5 meter by 0.5 meter. And they're like, "Yeah, Bob's your uncle."
Don't sell that NFT, because you'd have to give up the print as well.
Yeah, I'd have to post it, right?
You would, yeah. I was just reading about Seth Green. If you guys know Seth Green, actor and responsible for Robot Chicken, those types of things. He got fished out of a few Bored Apes, I think he had on Ethereum, and he was building a series on some of those apes because he had the rights to them. And after he got fished, he had to pause the series creation because by law he doesn't own the right on those items anymore, even though they were stolen out of his wallet. How crazy is that?
Wait, so when you buy a Bored Ape, do you actually get the copyright?
I guess that was the idea, at least what he had in here. So there's a whole story around it on BuzzFeed around that that they paused the creation of, he had I don't know what it was, if it was a short or what the heck it was. But it's pretty wild that he was building something off those ownerships, off those apes. And somebody fished him out of them, which is like $300,000 worth of these things, USD. And they paused it. So now he's trying to get back in terms of trying to continue. But I thought that was, I don't know if I've heard a story like that before around something like that, where if they actually, in that situation, does that give them the usage rights to be able to use that in any sort of, any even kind of degenerate structure around that use of that ape, right?
Yeah, I guess it depends on what's specified when you buy it, right? Because copyright, I think copyright is actually a little bit different in the US, isn't it? I think you might have to register your copyright on a thing when you make it. In the UK, certainly, as the second you do something, like if I were to record this conversation we're having right now, aside from the fact I'd be collecting personal data about you and there would therefore be a data controller and that would be bad. Let's ignore the general data protection regulation. And if I put like a beat to it or something and claimed it as like a musical work, which would again be the strangest hip hop track you've ever heard, but let's assume I did that as well. The second it became a creative work, I would own the copyright to that by default, and it's completely inalienable unless you sell it. or unless, and this is the creepy one that a lot of people don't notice about their day job contracts, your employer has already got you to sign over your copyright.
Yeah.
Which is more common, very, very common for software engineers.
That's the same in the US. I think anything you create while employed, even you can even make the case that even if it's after hours, it's difficult to say, hey, did you use, what types of resources did you have to be able to create this? But yeah.
I've always had to have my contracts changed because I'm just like,
you know what's funny? Like, I read something on Twitter, like from a guy that divorced, and on the divorce suite, like it was like the open source contributions. He had to pay for those because he was part of like both, So be careful with your open source.
It's going to be funny when wallets start suing wallets. John?
Yeah, you had some of these ideas when you were working for us on this other project. It could happen.
So Patmos just mentioned, what the hell is Cato funding?
So Cato is a on-ramp for fiat into crypto. And
right.
Cato, so we just had in the comments, Popmos has said that Cato funding has just passed. So that is funding a crypto on-ramp, a fiat on-ramp into the Cosmos ecosystem. As Cato is the preferred service provider, is my understanding, of several, what are we going to call them? Refugee projects, orphan projects from the artist formerly known as the Terra ecosystem. And so Cato coming to Cosmos is, and specifically in this case, Juno, is a very big deal for those projects migrating on their way over into the Cosmos and the IBC verse. So that's very cool.
So it looks like it's a payment infrastructure. Is that basically what it is?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's UI and methods to be able to ease the friction of payments.
Yeah. So my understanding is it's USDC, and obviously a lot of chains have access to USDC or Axelar. USDC seems to be getting quite a lot of traction at the moment. So I assume that in the case of Juno. I don't know what it would be in the case of Stargaze. Do you guys have a preferred? What's your preferred bridge for things like USDC? Is it Axelar or is it some other bridge?
We haven't discussed yet for USDC, but in terms of for NFTs, we are going to use Gravity Bridge, which we already started the implementation.
Right. Cool.
Sorry, I'm laughing. I'm just trying to read Patmos's fucking messages. It's like it's work. I've been trolling Patmos on Twitter, writing his shit backwards.
I saw you posting something written fully backwards, and I was like, I'm not sure this is sledging. I think this is just you sledging yourself.
Yeah, no, it's just I find it funny because it's as incoherent to me as what he wrote in the first place. So
is that a keyboard replacement, or is somebody actually typing that out?
That's me literally going letter for letter, typing it backwards. It's a huge.
I didn't mean you. I meant Patmos.
I feel like maybe Pup is typing with one of these, but with the wrong letters on it, and so it's just it's not their fault. They just tried to build a custom keyboard and just got all the letters the wrong way around.
Yep.
I mean, puppers can't read, so
yeah. Somebody's trolled them and given them like a cold map layout keyboard.
It's literally just got bones all over it, just little bone stitches. It just smashes the bones.
Yeah,
everything looks like a bone.
So we've also got do we have? I'm trying to keep us more to time than before. So unless we have any super pressing questions for Jorge, I think that we've pretty much crossed off everything we thought we might talk about beforehand, and it's been very interesting. Shall we do? We got a couple of questions that we have received over the week. Shall we deal with those and then maybe do wrap ups?
Yeah,
cool. We can definitely drag those questions out for 40 minutes, though.
Well, in order to help not do that, I'm going to try and not talk and just pose the questions, and you guys can answer them. and that will.
I
that
don't
will
think that's
hopefully-
possible.
Well, I'll mute myself, and then even if I do talk, it will just be flappy. Okay. I think we've answered the top one on there before. So, if you guys had a fully stacked team, you could sick on a new project. I guess that means like throw out a new project. What would that project be? Bonus points if it doesn't exist yet.
Is that a question for Jorge?
It might be a question
that
for
was
any
for
of
the
us.
group.
I mean, go for it.
Skip.
You said like, I have no ideas. I have nothing I want to implement. I have no dreams.
Too many
Yeah.
options.
Yeah, man, I really like projects that have uses. Like,
me too.
You know, there's a lot of projects, and I noted this when I first started looking at DeFi like quite a while ago, that a lot of projects just shuffle coins. They're just back and forth, moving things around, filling blocks with just transactions, moving shit around, swapping things for things and doing nothing. So, you know, if I had a fully stacked team, I would build something that does something. What that is, I do not know. But there are
when you know.
But that would be my dream, is to build something that does something. There's a lot of there's good projects out there that do that. Like, you know, there's Akash and Althea, I think you say it.
Althea. Yep.
Yeah, and
side.
projects along that.
Althea?
It's decentralized internet.
Yeah, I think it's I'm going to butcher this. It similar to other projects off of Cosmos. I believe it is a way to utilize and maybe piggyback off of internet lines to be able to provide service elsewhere and then be able to capture rewards associated with that. That's a really bad. I think that's a really awful explanation of it.
Yeah, they have like this network. So, for example, you want to become like a provider, you can have like your own router that will give internet to more people, and then use the router has like the software to charge for the subscription or something like that.
Right.
Yes, I think at the moment they're using it's like pay per minute type internet, right? It's like or, you know, regularly paying with blockchain monies. I think they use USDC at the moment, but I think the purpose of their blockchain is to control that and use their own token at some point.
Yeah.
So, like, I jumped on some spaces a little while ago and asked a bunch of questions I can't remember the answers to, but you know, the team seems onto it, and I really like what they've done in terms of like distributing internet. It's sort of like piggybacks. It's like a user can start like a node and basically collect fees for you know, people using Althea through their gateway, I guess you would say. So it's interesting. I don't know. I don't know how, like, they've onboarded like companies to do it as well, to provide, I guess, points of presence as a provider. But I'm not sure how it goes legally with, like, say, if I was using our local carrier to you know, distribute the internet to people who pay me. I don't know how that would work, but I think that's part of the model. But, you know, things that do things in real life is what I find to be really interesting, and how people can sort of roll that back to their blockchain. And some things don't need a blockchain, but, you know, it certainly does make sense for some projects. So
somebody said to me in Prague after something I said. Well, two funny things happened. Somebody said, "You really hate DeFi, don't you?" Like this, just took a step back and just like straight their chin and just went, "You know, you really hate DeFi, don't you?" And I was like, "Hate is a strong word," but that Putmos comment, like, blockchains working jobs, they hate to buy things they don't need, like the Fight Club reference. I was like, that epitomizes how I feel about a lot of DeFi. I'm like, look, let's not just make shit stuff on the blockchain. It's just not necessary. Like, yeah, my answer to the question is really, really simple. It's basically that there's the problems endemic in Web 2 are largely as a result of the incentive models that have emerged there. And incentive models rely on being able to design economics, and you can't always expect to get it right. But we have now with blockchain one of the most comprehensive toolkits for building incentive models that anybody outside of a central bank planning room has ever seen. And the ability to, instead of starting a startup, build an incentive model and a startup and a derivative token that expresses the intentions of that incentive model is one of the most revolutionary concepts that's happened in technology in the last 50 years. And, you know, wouldn't it be good if we used that to like further the cause of human rights and democracy and stopping climate change, and, or at least trying to ameliorate some of these bad things that we've seen happening as a result of rampant neoliberalism and late capitalism, like rather than just like dicking around with, you know, shuffling around bits that represent imaginary money.
Mm-hmm.
And this is why another person in Prague literally left a conversation with me, walked away, and it turned out they had gone and had a lie down. And they the next day they were like, "You kind of bummed me out yesterday, man."
That's not hard for me to believe.
Yeah, somehow it's very believable, isn't it? So Crypto King on Twitter has a question for you, Jorge, which is that what kind of, because I know Shane's talked about this as well to us before, what are the plans and the roadmap to move beyond simple images for NFTs on Stargaze? Like, and do you have like some much more advanced use cases you're thinking? I know you already talked about the generative stuff, but do you have much more advanced use cases like gated to access to content, or like NFTs as keys for IoT devices, or anything like crazy?
Well, we was already using like gated access. For example, in our Discord, you can access like projects, channels if you are an NFT holder, and some other projects like Stargaze Punks. I think they are using it as well for their Discord. So you will get access to different things if you hold like an NFT from the collection. I think like right now we are focusing on the core infrastructure, so we can add more things without having like the technical depth in the future. But I guess like the upcoming thing is probably lending and borrowing with NFTs. And as I say, like focusing on the experience, the infrastructure for adding more features in the future, because we really try to add more features that are well polished rather than adding too many features which someone may hate because it's not working as expected.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, Usurper.
No, I was going to say, I think going back to that last one around unlimited funds, I think this area around using the chain or using the structure for identity and being able to use different use cases around identity would be my kind of go-to as well, because it kind of fits what Jorge just said, like being able to either use an NFT as a token in some sort of sense to be able to prove identity, or to be able to use obviously devices like hardware devices and other types of things off the blockchain to be able to use identity. I know Check is doing that, as obviously that's their kind of structure on Check D, but I think that would be there's a lot of areas around authentication identity that this is such a great use case for, or a great technology to apply to. I think there's so much to be done there in terms of user experience and other types of things that would be really beneficial.
I'll start that. I'll just issue Stargaze NFTs to it says verified by Kingnodes.
Yeah.
And I'll just go and have a beer with you, and you show me your ID and buy me a beer, and I'll give you the NFT.
And then their staking rewards turns into King, right? Yeah. King token. That's right. Yeah.
King token, which you can't get anywhere.
Which you can't get anywhere.
We were talking about, to be fair, we're talking about Web of Trust. Web of Trust is a feature for the name service on Juno. Maybe that's the minimum viable product of the Web of Trust feature. Is you you go and have a beer with Null, and then we add a field to the NFT that only Null's address can edit on every NFT on the entire service.
Right.
And then, it's like proof of beer. Yeah. Somebody, of course, it's Callum with the sly aside, very wry, very funny. Proof of beer. If you've had a beer with Null, we verify you. Little Twitter tick mark.
You just need to.
Maybe that can be the howl equivalent of the Twitter tick. Is you only get the blue tick. You only get the blue tick on howl, the blue wolf.
If you've
had a beer with Null.
Showed you right here.
Beautiful. So I've just noticed there's one more comment I'd like to flag as a question while we're doing. Probably this will be our last question for the show, which is from Total Spud. Great name. Love the energy. Guys, can you speak about the hot topic of stablecoins, specifically how you view the decentralized stablecoin future in Cosmos? Mainly IST, Agoric Run, and Comdex Stable, or any others?
Well, we need one.
But do you want to be the one to implement it on your chain?
I think you can't have a algorithmic stable coin that's tied to your main token for your chain. So are we talking about a backed stable coin or an algorithmic stable coin, or just a stable coin in general? Because
I think IST is algorithmic, isn't it? The one on Agoric.
So the problem is, if you tie it to your main token for your chain, you can destroy your ecosystem, as we've seen, as soon as there's a vulnerability in the way that the stable coin works. So I think you'd have to be brave to implement it on your chain. And I'm skeptical about algorithmic stablecoins because now I haven't seen one that really works as a USD peg. So I don't know. Anyone else have a viewpoint?
My dad had a strong opinion.
Tell us more.
So they're saying IST is over collateralized, but it's only over collateralized until the value of the thing you're collateralizing it with is no longer over collateralizing it. So unless there's a way to liquidate it when the collateral becomes worth less.
Unless you have a counter-cyclical asset, it's all basically garbage, right? Because the reason a government can stop a bank run is because they can first of all tell the bank to close their doors and say, we'll buy you out. And then second of all, they can issue government debt on a 150-year cycle that's leveraged against a constant tax rate. So you're like, well, unless the chain itself can leverage its inflation to buy out debt as some kind of stable counter-cyclical bond. To be fair, it doesn't even have to be stable. I mean, I'm a fucking prat, so I have my savings part in government bonds. And then for some reason in 2016, the British government did something that shat the value of government bonds. Can't think what it was, something mid-year that just completely fucked my long-term savings. But even in the context of that, which turned out to be a volatile asset, much more volatile than it would normally be for most government debt, it's still, compared to crypto, a joke, in terms of how unvolatile it is, So until you have something like that, which is just going to kind of no matter how the market goes up or down, it's only going to depeg by a little bit. What can guarantee that other than the main chain itself, right? And would the main chain, would a chain ever back things that are on it, back its own? Because then you're still back into the Terra situation, right? Where the best the main chain can do is offer up its own token, which is positively correlated with the thing. So it's not actually counter-cyclical. It's just more of the same. You kind of need something that's
you lose one, you lose the other, basically.
Yeah. So what crypto can you, even a store of value crypto is going to be positively correlated? So unless you literally buy gold bars or something, what is going to be counter-cyclical enough to hedge against a stable coin?
So just reading Putmos's stuff that he's writing here about IST, because so far as I know, these comments don't come up in the stream when you're actually watching it. So I haven't been able to see them. So I'm going to read them out because it's interesting. So
Are you going to read them out like Booknos?
Yeah, well, no. It's hard enough to read it. So UST is algorithmic. Okay, yes. IST is not. So he's saying IST is only a over-collateralized coin, and it will be liquidated in the worst case. So and then he does say further down, what I was going to say further down, he says collateralized eventually has a limit, which is the problem, right? So if you have IST in circulation and then it's collateralized, it's pretty easy to see that sometimes the market can fall 80 to 90%, right? So the whole of the Cosmos ecosystem has fallen probably at least 70 to 80% in the last 3 months. So if you have even a pool of tokens that are collateralizing IST, what happens when it's liquidated? Do you then just get issued the tokens from the pool that were collateralizing it? So it's still not stable. There is a point where it becomes not stable.